This week's episode of Strictly Sega is rated M for mature audiences and may contain animated blood and violence. Bring it on.
Well, it's been over 15 years since Mortal Kombat made its way over here and kicked off all the controversy that's still remembered to this day. This week on Strictly Sega, we're taking a look at some of the Mortal Kombat classics released on the Segas, and we're inviting a few friends over for a bit of a round robin, and we've got Scotty from a previous episode. We've also got a new friend, Paddy, who hasn't been on the show before, and another friend, Stewie, who does a movie review at the end. So yeah, hope you enjoy, guys.
Over the years, the game's changed a lot, in some good ways, and some not so good ways, all hitting its peak in around the mid-90s. The best console to have all this fun on was definitely the Sega Mega Drive, the one with all the blood codes. Also in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the other highlights of the Mortal Kombat series on Sega consoles.
Well, let's start by taking a step back to its initial release. I mean, it may be a surprise that Mortal Kombat was developed within a very short time. Not so much as a Street Fighter II killer, but instead a game Midway hoped would ride the coattails on the one-on-one 2D fighters craze that was going on. You see, back then, thinking they could outsell Street Fighter would have been like me or you trying to design and writing our own Windows killer.
Developed by Midway, it was the company's first venture into the fighting arena. Renowned programmers Ed Boon and John Tobias got together a team and took advantage of the digital imagery system to construct MK1 in only 8 months, which would have been quite the task for any game developer.
So what is digital imagery? Well, it was a pretty new thing at the time, but gaining popularity with game makers. What you could do is take a collection of photos and animate them into a game. Midway had an excellent imagery system that was able to take photos quick enough to record movement in real time. Unlike other games like Street Fighter the movie, for instance, that had an awful imagery system that required movement done by the actor in slow motion. The first game I ever saw using digital imagery was Pit Fighter, but I'm not quite sure if it was the first game to ever use it though.
Some of the notable differences from Street Fighter were the blocking buttons instead of just moving the directional stick away from your opponent, as well as juggling, which let you continually bludgeon your opponent while they were in the air, helpless. But that said, the biggest difference would have to be the digitised imagery system.
Now, I think if I went any further without saying the word blood, then I wouldn't be doing Mortal Kombat any justice. Not only was there blood, but it would flow like a river from the 7 characters on the arcade, as they would suffer round after round. So besides similar style special moves to Street Fighter like Liu Kang's fireballs, there's also unique iconic moves like Raiden's flying tornado hit or Scorpion's spear attack, followed by the classic "Get over here!"
But let's not beat around the bush here. What made this the game for every 13-year-old kid to have was the fatalities, which coincidentally was also what worried parents when they went to pick up their kid from the arcade and saw what they'd been playing for the last couple of hours.
I mean, no other game before then let you reach into your rival's chest and pull out their still beating heart to show it to them as they fell to the ground, or perhaps rip off their rival's head with their spine still attached and holding it in the air proudly, or maybe making even their head explode. It was the impact of the fatalities, mixed with the controversy already brewing over the Digital Pictures Night Trap, that triggered off the ASRB to be formed.
So when the Arcade Smash did finally make it to the consoles, Midway was told by Nintendo that the graphic content had to be toned down. As a result, the blood was taken out of the Super NES version and fatalities were altered somewhat to be more family friendly. Anyone who saw the blood redrawn as sweat was devastated, and a lot of people bought a Mega Drive or Genesis just so they could play the proper version. You see, if you wanted to get the true version on the home console, the Mega Drive was the only way to go. It featured the blood clone, ABACABB. God, I've done that so many times, which restored the game to the full bloody arcade glory.
Okay, so let's move on. Mortal Kombat 2 was well into development by the time of Mortal Kombat 1's release. The first thing you notice about Mortal Kombat 2 is how the core gameplay hasn't actually changed that much, apart from heaps of extra fatalities also added, babalities and friendships. In my opinion, it's the best version of Mortal Kombat in the series. which is, I might add, is commonly held opinion, especially in comparison to later releases up until 2003.
MK3 had players split down the middle. Some loved it and thought it was the best in the series and where the series actually peaked, but some, like me, were like, do we really need a third game? But moving away from the success of Capcom's Street Fighter Alpha, Midway stayed faithful to their fans and gave them some new features on MK3 like a run button, chain combos, which are unblockable if done right, and don't forget the animalities, which had you turn into a type of animal to finish your opponent off. Other extra features in the third were the code system, the mercy move, and the ability to knock each other through the ceiling and continue fighting in the next stage.
There are a few new characters in the third, most notably the cyborgs, like Sector, Cyrax and Smoke, which are all based around the one actor. Speaking of which, that was my biggest issue with Mortal Kombat 3, with the new characters they omitted from the classics, like Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Reptile and Raiden, mostly due to the actor who played them was working on another game, so in turn was fired. But they didn't stay away long as the characters did return, but this time played by different actors in Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate.
So by 1999, Mortal Kombat was finally making a name for itself as a classic game. But Tobias felt this and thought it might be time to take the game to the next level, the 3D world. Now as a standalone game, Mortal Kombat Gold isn't a bad game, although it's definitely in the early stages of the environmental engine, especially compared to the likes of Virtua Fighter 3 and Soul Calibur. Tobias felt this and left Midway shortly after the release of the game. But now alone, Boon continued to develop Mortal Kombat and the 3D engine, fine-tuning it to make classics like Deadly Alliance, Armageddon and Mortal Kombat vs DC. With Ed Boon firmly behind the wheel and consistently mixing things up, Mortal Kombat can now once again be able to stand head-to-head with the likes of the Virtua Fighter series and the Soul Calibur series.
Wins. Fight.
Well, there's your meat and potatoes of Mortal Kombat. But if you click on part 2, you can check out the rest of what we've got to offer, which is the more entertaining side of it, I reckon. Yeah, just click here.